Very good. Well, welcome to our experience with your hosts, Chad Wers and Tom Hansel. And we are excited to get this show kicked off with talking to a good friend of ours who's been in this industry as long as we have, Mr. Tim Tannert. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I see the beautiful background. We'll just let everybody that's watching know right off the bat that you're overlooking the PNC Park in downtown Pittsburgh. I call Pittsburgh the Holy City because that's where that's really the epicenter, ground zero of sports. And so glad to see you representing. I know that you might not be a Pittsburgh fan. You're originally from that other state that starts with an O. But you've been in Pittsburgh majority of your career, so hopefully it's rubbed off on you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely become home for sure.
For sure. So this is really you're about your origin story. And again, like I said at the beginning, you've been in this industry, long-term care pharmacy, and in the pharmacy industry as long as I have. We're about the same age, and we kind of grew up together in this industry. And just explain to people kind of your origin, like where you got interested in pharmacy, and kind of where that all started from, and kind of take us through to where you're at today.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'll tell you, the best thing my parents ever did for me was they had a rule that the day I turned 16, I had to take a job. And so, I turned 16 and I had no idea where to work. And so I just started asking friends of mine where they were working, and one of them worked at Pizza Hut. And so I started making pizzas at Pizza Hut. And I'll tell you, it's the worst job I've ever had, but grateful I've had it. But about a year into that, one of my buddies was working for a local retail pharmacy in Akron, Ohio called Sandrun Pharmacy. And he was taking deliveries. And he gave me a call and said, "Tim, I'm going off to college. Do you want my job?" And I said, "You know what? It's got to be better than making pizzas. I'm in." And that's how I started in pharmacy. I started with taking the trash out, taking deliveries, washing windows, soda fountain, cleaning the restrooms, painting the restrooms. If there's a worse job at all times, it was painting public restrooms. Much worse than cleaning them. But, I started to really see the impact that Tom and his wife, Meg, Tom Lamb, was having on the community. And I saw all of these people come in and rely on Tom and Meg for their frontline healthcare. And that's where I fell in love with the profession. And so Tom eventually had me behind the counter filling scripts. And, I grew up in Akron, Ohio, always a big time Ohio State fan. And so I knew they had a pharmacy school. So that was kind of my thought process. And Tom pulled me aside one day and said, "Tim, if you want to go to Ohio State, that's great, but do me a favor, go to Ohio Northern and check it out first." And I said, "Ohio what?" Never heard of it. But based off of Tom's recommendation, I went to Ohio Northern, fell in love with the campus, and became a polar bear. So I went to pharmacy school at Ohio Northern. When I came back for the summer, Tom obviously had to replace me. And he's like, "But you know what, Tim, there's this long-term care pharmacy called Vitalink. I'll get you a job there." And so Kevin Farron hired me at Vitalink, and I started again taking deliveries and cleaning shelves and doing all the things that interns do. And so that's where I fell in love with long-term care. And so, one of my funniest stories was I was delivering medication carts to facilities as we would swap them out, and I would go and clean the med carts and do all that stuff. And one of our accounts was the Summit County Jail. And so Kevin said, "Okay, Tim, I've got a job for you. Here's 2 med carts. We'll load them up in the van. I need you to take them to the jail, unload them, swap them out, and bring the old ones back." How hard can that be, right? So I get to the jail and I unload the med carts, and I'm parking in the parking lot, and there's a wooden gate. And I'm pushing the med cart, and I'm trying to figure out how to get around the wooden gate, and the gate opens. Like, perfect. So I get the med cart literally halfway under the gate, and the gate closed on the med cart. The gate broke. I'm standing there with the broken gate in the med cart, freaking out. And I walk into the jail thinking, I'm going to get arrested. I'm not going to leave this place, right?
You're in.
And the officers they were literally crying because they saw all this happen on the video camera. And I failed at a lot of things in my career. I guess that's lesson number one.
But you got out of jail, and that's the most important thing.
I got out of jail and started my pharmacy experience.
Hey, so real quick, Northern Ohio, did you say their mascot was the polar bears?
The polar bears, yeah.
The polar bears, yes.
You didn't know
Absolutely.
that?
I'm not astute on Northern Ohio, but I did not know.
Yeah.
So they have a polar bear run out on the field, and
where'd you go to pharmacy school?
Absolutely.
Chicago. I went to an actual city. We had
elitist.
We had buildings and
When I went to Ohio Northern, it literally was over a 30-minute drive to get to the closest McDonald's. The only restaurant we had in town was a Hardee's. And so but it was an amazing place. And honestly, I don't think I would have been the pharmacist I am without Ohio Northern and the love school. And the support that the professors, the Dean Gossel is still a close friend of mine today. Just amazing place to develop me and allow me to grow, both in my faith and in my profession. That was what was really great for me. So awesome. Long story short, right, I was watching Doug Russell's podcast here and his episode, and he talked about how everyone had to do a stint in retail. And so it's part of the transition into the profession. So I of course, did my stint in retail right out of pharmacy school once I got my license. Had my life threatened over a fake OxyContin script. Lots of fun there. And so that's what kind of drove me back into long-term care. And so I started working in long-term care, and Mark Schroeder was leading that Omnicare pharmacy in Cincinnati. And one day I was just kind of looking around going, I need to get out of the grind of just dispensing scripts. And so I went up to Mark and said, hey, can I schedule a little meeting with you? He's like, sure. So he brings me into his office, and I said, Mark, one day I would love to have a job like yours. And so if there's anything that you would be willing to do to give me that you don't want to do, to allow me to learn, I'll come in before and after work. You don't have to pay me, and I'll just take some things off of your plate so I can learn, grow, and develop. And he was more than generous, accepted that offer. And so I did that for about a year. And one day I left work. I went back to my apartment. This was back in the day of answering machines. And there's a flashing light on my answering machine saying, hey, Tim, we need you to be up in Toledo, Ohio for an interview tomorrow morning. Don't worry about talking to Mark. He knows you're going to be there. And I went up, and they offered me the ability to run the Omnicare pharmacy in Columbus, Ohio. So took that opportunity, ran that, then ran a smaller independent pharmacy in North Canton, Ohio called Absolute Pharmacy. Took that from about 1,800 to about 6,000 patients over a course of about 5 years. And that was about, 2009-ish at this point. And this is when long-term care facilities started really investing in electronic health records. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, within a span of a couple months, I literally got a phone call from, I think, every single administrator in DON that I serviced at the time saying, hey, Tim, we want you to connect with our EMR. The problem was I was running the pharmacy on a green screen AS400 that had absolutely no shot at interfacing with these electronic health records, right?
I remember.
And so that's what sent me on a kind of a mission running this pharmacy saying, like, what other technology is out there that's got a shot at actually doing what we need to do to take this profession into the future? And so I founded a small little company in Pittsburgh, Ohio called SoftWriters. They only had about 20 employees. I would say they're one of many in the long-term care pharmacy software space, but they had the newest tech, and they had a really great team. And so I bought the software, I implemented it at Absolute, and started interfacing with these EMRs. At that same time, SoftWriters was going through tremendous growth. They had just gotten their first round of private equity funding. And one day I got a phone call saying, hey, Tim, we really want to grow and expand this company. We've looked in our customer base, and we think that you're a great operator, and we'd love to have you join our team. So that's how I left pharmacy, got into software, moved my family here to Pittsburgh in 2011, and I joined as COO, and it was my job to grow and scale the company. Yeah. And spent about a decade at SoftWriters, ultimately becoming what I would say is the undisputed leader in long-term care pharmacy software, and left about 5 years or so ago to just kind of it run its course. Wanted to do new challenges. I created a consulting company called Culture Cures, playing on my love of driving high-performing teams and cultures and the cures, my pharmacy background, and started consulting in all industries from I had sanitation companies, manufacturing, distribution, law firms, software companies, financial planners, all sorts of different organizations that I was working with, helping them grow, develop, align strategy to execution, develop cultures, develop core values. And that was an amazing experience. Along with that, I also worked in private equity and would help with diligence, build investment thesis, and become a board member if we made the acquisition. And so I'm on the board of PrimeRx, which is the second largest retail pharmacy information system in the country, helping them. I've been working with them for about 3 years, and recently took a board seat and then CEO at a hospice software company called BetterRx. So that's kind of my journey, how I got to where I am.
It's amazing.
A lot of bumps and trials and tribulations along the way, but
well, a lot to unpack there. Before we move on to talking about your new adventure, which is very, very exciting, and you and I have spent some time talking about that, and I think it certainly is a gap that is very painful, and then you guys are filling that gap and removing those problems. Yeah. But before we get into that, I want to unpack some of your history here. You mentioned Vitalink and Kevin Farron. Obviously, Kevin's been very important part of ASCP and a very critical, I guess, pioneer in our industry. And you worked with him very closely, and he actually went back to Absolute where you were at. Yeah. Was he there? Did you guys overlap, or were you already gone?
No. So when I was offered the job at SoftWriters, I wanted to help them build a gap at Absolute. And so Kevin and I had a great relationship, stayed in touch over the years. And so he and I talked, and I said, hey, look, we're looking for a new leader of this organization. I think you would be great at it. And so he took the job. So
it's like a circle of life thing, right? Because you worked with him at Vitalink. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And that's one of the things I love about the long-term care pharmacy industry, right? Everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
And it is very much a relationship-driven profession.
It's family.
And it's family. And we all help each other. And, I think every single person in this industry I've either competed with at one point, worked with, or partnered with from a technology perspective, right? And the dynamics change. Like, I'll work with and then be a customer of and then be a vendor to, but it's all great people. And so, I just love long-term care. And one of the things that, speaking of Ohio Northern, that my wife and I were able to do is to create an endowed scholarship at Ohio Northern specifically for students to explore long-term care. So the only people that are eligible for our scholarship are people that are interested in interning in long-term care or being part of the ascp chapter at Ohio Northern. I think every single one of our scholarship awardees so far has been a member of the ascp chapter of Ohio Northern.
That's awesome.
And so constantly looking to be able to give back to the profession and help pave the way for the young bloods to come in, because we're getting a little long in the tooth here.
That's great. That's so awesome.
You can get a few gray hairs out there.
A couple of grays.
Fantastic. So do you have anything for Tim about the...
No, I think I'm just, you have a great story of pharmacy. I'm always, when we do these, I'm just always surprised, I guess. I don't know, surprised. We all got started in high school at a pharmacy.
Yeah.
Like our whole generation. And I really think that's a miss right now in pharmacy, is that we've changed laws. You can't be in a pharmacy unless you're 18 years old. And then we wonder why it's hard to get kids to want to go to pharmacy school without ever having their whole perception of pharmacy is looking at a CVS or a Walgreens, and nothing against them, but doesn't look real appealing when you're walking through a store. So I think it's just interesting. Like we've got to somehow get back to getting more young people interested in pharmacy, not just long-term care pharmacy, but pharmacy in general. I feel like we have a talent gap. They don't really see it until they're in school.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I had no idea what a pharmacist was, right? And the only reason I got into this profession is because I hated making pizzas. Like, that's a true story, right? And you think about how those little decisions change the entire trajectory of your life.
Right.
Yeah. And so I agree, we've got to be able to figure out how to engage. And that was what drove me to creating the scholarship at Ohio Northern, specifically to drive people into long-term care. Because, again, there's this perception that it's retail or hospital. Yeah. Well, there's so much in between those two. So many areas where pharmacists make a huge impact in people's lives. And so allowing people to kind of get out of the normal boxes that we tend to put ourselves in.
100%.
Yeah, no, for sure. And they want to use their clinical side. They typically don't want to be transactional. They didn't get their doctor's degree in pharmacy to be transactional. That's required in those other type of settings. And I think that if you expose pharmacy students to all the different options, I believe long-term care is high top of their list.
Oh, for sure.
It's just the lack of exposure. You tripped into it. I had the same type of situation. Now I've never broken a med cart, but
at a jail,
in a jail. But there's always those type of fun stories. I actually talking about this. I got a call at 2:00 in the morning from one of my nursing homes that was 3 hours away and said, "Hey, we just got our med cart stolen," and I'm like a medication? No, the med cart. Someone pulled up to our back loading dock, broke in the nursing home, took the med cart, shoved it to the back of a pickup truck, and took off.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, oh, okay, so what do you need? I need all my meds.
Everything.
Right.
We fought by morning med pass.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like,
they were all in the med cart.
This is a bad night.
You're 3 hours away. If I call CVS 24-hour and say, I need you to fill 300 medications, but one pill each,
yeah, right.
They're going to hang up on me.
Right.
But we all have those type of stories, and we made through it, and everything. It's a good story now, but it is a completely different experience than working in a retail store, in a hospital. And it's, to me, I fell in love with long-term care. It didn't take long. I was in it for 6 months. I'm like, I'm never leaving this industry.
Yeah.
The name on my shirt might change, but I'm never leaving long-term care pharmacy. And I think everybody that's in this industry feels the same way.
Yeah, it's not just it's not even just the pharmacists. It's when we talk to the pharmaceutical company vendors that have worked in long-term care. Mm-hmm. They've been doing it for 30 years, or they did it for 20 years and then they got, laid off or pushed out into a different part of their company, but then they're desperately trying to get back.
Yeah.
We are a family. It's fun. I think we enjoy each other. I think your description of, it reminded me when he was talking about how you compete, how you might be a customer of, how you might be a peer. It is the AFC North. Like, we might not like each other on Sundays, but we like each other all the rest of the time. And I think that's the way it is. Like,
Joe Flacco's made it to every team except the Steelers at this point.
Right. I'm sure that'll happen next year.
He'll replace Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's our go-to right there. So it's either that or the Bears quarterback. We usually we're in line for when the Bears are done with their quarterbacks. But no, before we get to football, certainly have a lot to talk about there. But now you've got a new adventure, Better RX, and like I said a little earlier, there's an obvious gap when you start thinking about it in our space when it comes to hospice and the challenges there. And as a long-term care pharmacist, if I had someone that said, hospice company, call me, I'd be like, no, not interested. Go find another pharmacy. Yeah. It was just to that point. Because of restricted formularies, because of the urgency, and there's just so many restrictions there. And also, but you have to be available on call 24/7. Yeah. And this wasn't a good profit center, but BetterRx is changing that, collaborating with hospice companies and the pharmacy. So, I don't want to steal your thunder, but tell me kind of a little bit, or tell our group a little bit about what you guys are doing.
So, I fell in love with this company for a lot of reasons. But one of the primary is I think that they're, while all of us pharmacists have our own perspective on the industry, there's very few things that we can all 100% get behind. And I think one of those is we are all 100% behind the fact that PBMs have absolutely destroyed our profession. And it's a shame. It truly is a shame. And so BetterRx is, I like to frame us as the anti-PBM. We are a technology-forward solution that eliminates the need for a PBM in the hospice equation. And one of the main reasons why long-term care pharmacies have shied away from hospice is because the margin's been sucked out of it. The reality is there are hundreds of thousands of hospice patients out that are available for us to serve. And the opportunity is great. But the margins have become difficult because of the PBMs and spread pricing and really sucking margin out of both ends of the spectrum. And so what BetterRx is it's a tech platform, software platform where we engage the hospices with our PharmDs to be able to help them understand the unique medication needs of their patients. A lot of hospices are focusing on specific disease states. And so the needs from hospice to hospice vary. And so we want to help them develop the right formulary. One formulary does not fit all. And from that, then we embed the formulary into our software. And at the point of the nurse entering the order into the electronic health record, we can then suggest the right formulary alternative, have the therapeutic interchange be done at the point of prescribing, so the clean order goes to the physician to sign to get to the pharmacy. And so in the typical PBM world, right, the nurse enters the order, it goes to the doctor signs it goes to the pharmacy adjudicates the claim, it comes back rejected, the pharmacy calls the nurse calls the doctor calls the nurse calls the pharmacy, right? We've got all of this churn. And oh, by the way, the PBM is taking money at both ends. And oh, by the way, you've got DIR fees, you've got audits, you've got this, you've got that. And so we've eliminated that. What we do is, again, the nurse enters the order, clean order goes to the physician, clean order goes to the pharmacy fills it, they adjudicate to our BIN and PCN, we reimburse the pharmacy, the hospice pays us. So, and we don't take a spread. we have a transparent pricing model with a technology fee that the hospice pays. And so that's our model. And one of our core values, I talked about the fact that, you're right, I'm a big believer in culture for organizations. I'm a big believer in core values. One of our core values as an organization is to create win-win relationships, mutual respect, right? And so that is our mission, is to be able to create an environment where pharmacies can thrive, hospices can thrive, and we help everyone be able to service the care of that patient more effectively with as little churn as possible. And so our traditional model has been, before I just joined the CEO in August, we've traditionally just focused on selling the hospice organizations and then working with pharmacies. I've got a new chief pharmacy officer that's going to be joining our organization on December 15th. You guys probably, I'm sure, know him, and we'll make that announcement later. But his primary responsibility is going to be engaging with long-term care pharmacies, helping them understand the value that we bring, and honestly, also to work with them and say, okay, if you are currently servicing hospice today, where are you getting crushed from a margin perspective? And let us come in and help. So again, creating that win-win relationship, because with our tools, the communication with the pharmacy and the hospice dramatically improve. The speed of being able to provide care dramatically improves, and their margin dramatically improves. So if we can get everyone working together to eliminate the PBM and to be able to provide better care, we all will benefit. So that's what we're doing now.
So you've got my head spinning a little bit. Just because of all that's going on in drug pricing and IRA implementation. This is for hospice. What's to say that the long-term care pharmacy doesn't say, yeah, this is the same problem I have now with the 10 IRA drugs. How can you help me be more efficient? If I've got a warfarin script out there that I'm making a quarter on, and I've got an opportunity to make that an Eliquis script that I can make, I don't know, I used to make $40 on, now I'm going to make $7, but $7's better than a quarter. Couldn't this, I guess I'm way ahead of it, but
no,
it sounds that's an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like I said, I fell in love with this company for a lot of reasons. Originally, it was my intention to co-invest and be a board member. I built an amazing consulting company where I had a lot of great clients, and quite honestly, I didn't work that hard. My life was pretty darn good. And I've got 2 young kids. I was able to spend a lot of time with them. I had no intention to get back into the CEO seat. I actually promised my wife I would never do this again. But I became compelled to do this just because I saw the opportunity. And so we absolutely believe that there's opportunities for us to expand outside of hospice. That's our focus right this second.
Sure.
We are doing discovery in some adjacent markets. I think PACE programs is a really good adjacent market for us because it's a very similar type model. Long-term care at home is something that we've got a lot of nurses providing care that need to connect with caregivers, right, and connect to the pharmacy network. So there's a lot of opportunities. I would fully expect us to expand into adjacent markets here. And any listeners that are thinking, man, I would love to have conversations, I would welcome that. Let's ideate. Let's think about how we can, again, create those win-win relationships where we're able to work together to protect the profession. We've spent this entire podcast, right, talking about how much we love the profession.
Right.
And it's our most important duty is to protect it for the next generation.
100%.
No, for sure. And again, I would have said, hey, I don't really want to do that hospice patients. It's just high demand and low revenue. And so if we can now have a solution like BetterRx that can actually make it easier, make it possible where we can actually make some margin and then kind of take away that back and forth in the PBMs and anywhere we can cut out PBMs, I'm all for. But I think at the end of the day, one of the biggest challenges when it comes to long-term care and hospice is that delay in therapy, especially if I want to get paid before I send the drug, which isn't always possible in long-term care. And then we find out 3 months later, oh, we're not paying for that. That wasn't on the formulary, and it becomes a real issue. This removes all that.
Yeah.
So it removes that inhibition from going after hospice patients. So I certainly see long-term care pharmacy saying, hey, this is worth now chasing after hospice patients and being the main hospice provider.
Well, and Tim brought up long-term care at home. I mean, long-term care pharmacies are looking for not just finding margin in some of their products, but also expanding. And this in some ways is, you may have walked away from hospice, but now you're expanding back into hospice.
Right.
So it's more business.
Another revenue
that's a little bit more
yeah.
protected in terms from a margin perspective. And then, like I said, they're all like, even what we're going to be doing next year is going to be a lot about teaching or helping pharmacies, giving them resources to find margin. Like, why are you dispensing that? You don't make anything on it. This drug is actually better. This is how you get there. And you're doing it in a very easy, electronic, turnkey sort of, hey, I can do this for you. And you don't have to change a whole lot about your operation other than, reinvesting in serving hospice. Yeah. But that's huge. That's what they need right now.
Absolutely. I'm so excited about it. And, it's interesting. We're seeing this prove out. So one of the pharmacies here in Pittsburgh that was one of the first long-term care pharmacies on Framework LTC back in the day, they are one of our Better RX clients. They use it in some of their hospice. And so he reached out to me when he saw that I had taken the role here, and we had lunch, and he was having this conversation with me saying, listen, I've got a couple hospices that I'm going to have to walk away from the business because I can't afford it. And I said, well, let me help you with that. So give me the name of that hospice. Let's go in together and let's see. Well, we were able to sell them on our tech. And now his margins dramatically improved. He's servicing the same patients, and the hospice is more than willing to pay our tech fee because they're able to see their cost controls and what they're able to benefit. With spread pricing, the incentives are not aligned with the hospice and the PBM.
Right.
And so what we do is we align those incentives. And so, there's a lot of opportunity, and I'm really excited to be back at the long-term care shows and being able to talk to pharmacists about our product, because I think there's just, we're relatively young in the space, and there's an awareness that we need to get out there. There's tremendous benefit for these pharmacies to really protect margins and to grow the number of patients that they serve.
Certainly.
Awesome.
And it's very unique, kind of your business plan and your software and kind of what you guys are doing. So I don't know if you have really direct competitors, so to speak. And so I appreciate the pioneering uniqueness of it. But again, anything to help long-term care pharmacies diversify their revenue, increase revenue streams that are not dependent upon PBMs, I think is wonderful. So I know we're certainly very, very excited about it, and want to do what we can to help BetterX get going and get more in the space.
Yep, absolutely. And there's also some pharmacies out there, I'll just throw this out there, that do currently have direct to pharmacy relationships with some hospices, but they need to manage the formulary, they need to do the clinical services, and they have to do the collections in AR. And by bringing us in, all of those things go away.
Yeah.
So we'll manage the pharmacy. We've got the PharmDs that will work with them to develop that. We do the collections. We just pay them twice a month. So cash flow improves, et cetera, et cetera. So even the pharmacies out there that are doing direct to hospice right now, it's worth a conversation of how bringing us in can actually help them with that line of business as well.
That's awesome.
Well, it's astonishing how smart you are and being a Cleveland Brown fan simultaneously. So I'm sure that your wife really is probably the brains behind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I say all the time that the team I have at Better RX can make even me look good, which is really, truly astonishing. So I'm blessed to have a great team behind me.
Well, I know you're a proud dad as well. You and I have talked. I know your daughter has been doing really well as a goalkeeper in soccer, and you and I have had that personal bond there because my daughters do the same thing in college, and I see this sign that says #1 dad behind
Exactly.
you. I just
that's my pride and joy.
Just when they go to college and become adults, you're going to go way down on the #1 scale. So just be aware.
Yeah.
That
Exactly.
you're only
Hold on to
#1
it
dad
while you
now because they're fully dependent upon you. But eventually, for a period of time, they'll come back eventually.
Yeah.
But just prepare yourself for that. But
absolutely. My son's in Boy Scouts. I'm an assistant scoutmaster of the Boy Scout troop and get to go to a lot of the camping trips and summer camp. And we just signed up for Philmont. So we got a Philmont trip coming up here. And then, my daughter with soccer, and she's also in ROTC. She's in high school in the JROTC for the Air Force. And she's doing some really cool stuff they call it Raiders. It's obstacle course competitions against other ROTC units that are timed. I've got video of her pulling a police truck, like a SWAT vehicle. They line up, there's a 10-person team, and they have to pull it from point A to point B, and they time them to see how long it takes them to pull the SWAT vehicle, those types of things. So, kids are definitely the pride and joy of my life, and there's no doubt that my wife is the brains of our operation as well. I like to joke that she's the brains and I'm the mouth of this organization, so of this family.
Nice.
any closing words there?
No, I think this was great. It's great to hear your story. Just excited about what you're doing. It's always fascinating to see people that can see sort of around the corner at what pharmacy needs or whatever business that they're in. But in your case, kind of see what long-term care pharmacy needs and then go out there and provide resources for them. What you said about protecting the profession, that's exactly what we're here to do.
Yeah.
Like we have to protect it because we do love it. Because we do, we put our whole lives into it. And we do like to care for people and make sure they get the right medications.
Yeah.
Yeah,
certainly, and no more vulnerable people than the seniors and people in hospice.
And end-of-life care, absolutely.
Yeah, the millions of lives that the people listening to this podcast impact on a day in, day out basis is staggering.
Yep.
And it's the most vulnerable of our population. They need us more than anyone else needs us, and that's what's always drawn me to this, and that's why the people that do it are such great people.
Yeah, you're right.
Throughout this industry, because they truly care about the people that need them. So
that's awesome.
It's an honor to be a part of it for sure.
Well, you're easy to find, betterrx.com, or you can obviously jump on LinkedIn, and you're on LinkedIn as well. So, but appreciate you taking the time. Looking forward to watching BetterX grow up. Looking forward to you coming at the our next ASCP annual meeting, and we just had. So we're 11 months away. You got plenty of time to prepare for that. But that'll be here in D.C.
It'll be in D.C.
at the National Harbor. So not too far away. And I'm sure by that time next year, the Steelers would have already won the Super Bowl and on their way to winning and repeating.
I don't think so this year. Joe Burrow's back.
Awesome.
Joe Burrow. We'll see.
All right.
So
thanks so much, Tim.
Well, thank you guys very much for having me on the podcast. It's been a real honor, and it's always great seeing you.
Appreciate you.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time on Our Experience.